Hello, this is my video for the final project. For this final project, I decided to create a sort of video game scenario that showed the name, health status, position, and damage amount the user's character performed. I also decided to grant the user the ability to see the opponent's health status and amount of damage taken. The objective of this assignment was to create our own program of any scenario as long as it met the following requirements, which is to have the program contain structures, if/else/if/else statements, printout statements, user input, display input, loop, arrays, functions, pointers, and references. For me to execute my scenario, I had to establish some key factors into my program, such as the include files that would grant me the ability to use certain codes, data types, and input and output tools. Next, I used the namespace to prevent the repetitive usage of standard and the preprocessor directive to initiate a barrel limit, which basically signifies how many players and opponents are allowed into the scenario. After this, I was able to set up my two structures, one for the player and one for the monster. For this scenario, inside the structure, I initiated fundamental data types to contain the data of the character's current status that I will later use within my program to access that specific information. And as you can see here, I have the name, role, health, max health, and damage of the player, and the name, health, damage of the monster. I also created void function identifiers to handle generic data within the program, and one void function pointer identifier to copy the array of player data a bit faster. Once I finished my setup, I constructed the program's main entry point. Inside the main entry point, I inputted the player and monster information data in the order of their structure blueprint and initiating the limit count for both groups. So this would be the name of the player's character, the position or role, their health, as in current health, their max health, and the damage they have done. And the limit is 3 players. And it's going to be the same for the monsters information. Within this main entry from line 44 to 64, I created a do-while loop and if-else-if loop using choice and other local variables to create an interactive simulation menu search. Since this section of coding contains the void identifiers print info and print monster info within the loop, the program can access the organized void functions of the player and monster data from lines 73 to 95, which I will show later on. But for the player to access this information, I had to add into the function prototype info a list of options that the user may be allowed to choose from in the game's menu. As mentioned previously, from lines 73 to 95, I have the organized version of the player's character information and monster information. But first I would like to get into the player info. For the player info, I was able to take the information by initiating a new local variable, current player, to act as a placeholder for the player's data from the main entry point. Doing so, I inputted the local variable current player and attached the fundamental data type variables seen inside the player structure to access that specific part of the information, as you can see here. I would also like to add that in the player info function, at the end of this program, I established an if-else loop to notify the player when their character is in critical condition. Here I have the monster display input. It is a simple section of coding, nothing too complex. It simply just prints out the monster's current health. Overall, here's the program when it is executed. Here we have the player info, the role, the health, the current health, the damage that was done, and the warning of the character's health status. And this goes for all three players. Moving on to option 2, we have the monster info. We have the monster's name or type, the current health, the damage that they have taken, and here is the end, returning to the program.